Anybody from Hodgson going to be here? Nope. Nobody from Hodgson is going to be here? Antoinette?
Oh, there's Bill.
There you go.
Hello.
Antoinette? Is anybody from Hodgson Russ going to be here?
I didn't see him.
Okay, welcome everyone to meeting of July 21st at 2 o'clock. We get a roll call. Honorable Dennis Feeney.
Here.
Bill Murphy.
Here.
Marlene, I believe is excused. Anton.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
And Wanda, I believe is excused. So we do have a quorum. Next on the agenda here is review of the minutes from June 3rd. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
Take a motion.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Other business, Jeremy Smith.
Mr. Chairman, if you would, I could just, listen, first of all, I'd like to thank the board for meeting on such a short notice here, but this, the timing of our GEIS is driving some decisions that have to be made rather quickly. So that is what we're here to meet about today, and that is the for the IDA to pass a resolution accepting the role as lead agency for the generic environmental impact statement. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy, who will introduce our consultant, Don.
He's not on yet.
Thanks, Kevin. As quickly as Kevin has mentioned, it was determined that the IDA would be the lead agency for the environmental review on the Altech steel site as we begin development of that project, or continued development of that project. Hoping to have online here today is Steve Wolbert, who is with McFarland Johnson, who is our engineer and technical lead for this project, to give a technical background on what is entailed in being lead agency for this project. If for some reason Steve is not able to connect, I can give a brief overview, but certainly better to hear from our technical experts.
Well, while we're waiting for Steve to come on, maybe Tom could walk us through the resolution that the board is going to be asked to consider, and then when Steve comes on, he can do his part. But would you get Steve on the phone, please, and tell him we're waiting for him? Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, IDA members. Before you is a resolution to consider, and this would basically designate the agency, the IDA, as lead agency for the purposes of secret for a particular action. And the action is defined in the resolution. And I won't read every word, but sum and substance, it is the preparation of a generic environmental impact state for the redevelopment of the property, often referred to as the Altech specialty steel site. Previously, in accordance with earlier IDA resolutions, this board authorized the acquisition of 2 parcels within the Altech specialty steel site, 50+ acres, and this GEIS would relate to the redevelopment of that property, which is presently titled in the IDA's name. Earlier, the IDA sent out a coordination letter to all the involved agencies, and as a result of that, it came back that the IDA is the best suited to serve as the lead agency. So this resolution approves, affirms, and confirms the actions that have been taken to date and formally designates the IDA as lead agency. Obviously publicly done, and notice that would be sent out to all the involved agencies. There were 12 other agencies that will be involved in this planning secret process. So subject to any other questions, that's the resolution. And yes, sir.
Lead agencies for what purpose? Not for the purpose of advancing the development of the site, or?
Yes, sir. So in any government, when any government entity, and the IDA being one of them, falls under this umbrella, makes a discretionary decision or takes a discretionary action, the State Environmental Quality Review Act requirements apply, and any agency that takes such action, depending on the type of action it is, has to go down a road to basically review any potential negative impacts from an environmental perspective. And as a result of that, one of the agencies, and there's several here, Bill, including us, DEC, other agencies, local and state, are all involved agencies. One of them would serve as lead agency. And because we're the property owner, we've moved forward to serve as the lead agency for that environmental review.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, very good.
Okay, I think, Mr. Chairman, we do have our consultant, Steve from McFarland Johnson. Steve, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, Steve, if you would want to walk through a little bit about what the board is getting themselves into here, just with the designation as lead agency?
Sure, very good. So the ultimate responsibility of the board is to make a findings on the environmental impact of the project. And you make a finding by way of preparing a findings statement, which is a written document that outlines all potential impacts and their corresponding mitigation measures to ultimately determine if the project is environmentally fit to move forward in this particular location. You prepare your finding statement based upon a hard look at all of the potential impacts. Has to be based upon public participation. That includes the general public, that includes all interested and involved agencies. And then there are statutory requirements with regard to procedures and timeframes. So McFarland Johnson heads up the consultant team that will be preparing all of the environmental studies that relate to any potential impact, as well as guiding the team on making sure we follow all of these seeker procedural steps all along the way, and making sure that we are engaging the public and both the involved and interested agencies. And then ultimately, we will help you prepare the finding statement that you'll ultimately adopt and will be a public record. That's it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you may have, but it is the lead agent takes on the role of the quarterback of this project and making sure we follow all of the seeker requirements, but also making sure we take a hard look at all of the potential environmental impacts and make sure there are appropriate mitigation measures associated to minimize those impacts once the project's implemented.
So along the way, as you're going through your diligence, we'll be working with Tom then as to, if situations arise that need consultation with the board. Is that the way, that'll work? We won't find out about it at the last hour. It'll be ongoing?
100% correct. We will keep you abreast of all of the public meetings that we have, all of the comments received from the public. So there will be no surprises.
Okay.
There is a responsibility, though. The IDA, I think you're probably working through the alliance, actually has to chair each of the public hearings. With that said, I don't necessarily mean you need to be there, but as I think Alliance is your agent, they will be there under Kevin's leadership to act on your behalf to make sure that all the required notices go out in advance of the actual public hearings. There's transcription of comments that are made at the public hearing.
I'd like to make a recommendation that maybe in our monthly meetings, we should have this firm,
Yes.
Come on and give an update as to where we are, in that process, just so everyone, has a time to answer, any questions or ask questions.
Good idea, and we easily can do that. And we can bring, Steve mentioned the McFarland Johnson's leading the team. There are some other consultants we have that are helping in this process. Tom, of course, but we're also using the firm of Summers and Young to assist us on the environmental issues on the site, which are significant at the Superfund site. So, we will most certainly do that.
Great. I think that's a good idea. Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just summarizing the role of the IDA and being the lead agent, but you're absolutely correct. Having monthly updates is very appropriate, but to the best of our ability, my ability, you won't be surprised. You'll have an advance notice of everything that comes out.
And to set the stage, this is just the first step, right? As Steve, you're just designating yourself as lead agency. All the things he's talked about come next.
No, next, right.
And you will see a findings, you will see these documents before they,
Perfect.
before that'll be approved. The finding statement would be something at the tail end of this, but ultimately the IDA will issue.
I can give you a very 30-second overview of the entire process. So after today, you're declaring yourself lead agent, and then the next step is actually holding a public scoping meeting where the outline of our environmental impact statement is laid out and distributed to all involved interested agencies as well as the general public for their review and input. We take their input and create a final scoping document, a final outline of our environmental impact statement report, from which we will then prepare our draft environmental impact statement report, which will be reviewed internally by this team. You're more than welcome to review that document if you want. Once the review is done, that draft environmental impact statement goes out for public review. There's a 45-day minimum public review period where we will distribute it at typically public places like libraries and this and that, make announcements of where folks can find it, probably at your office. And then in between it issuing as a draft for review to actually finding it complete, there's a public hearing from which we'll gather comments on the draft environmental impact statement. And then we will prepare a final environmental impact statement that will address all public comments that were received on the draft. That will also get reviewed internally and then issued for public, not review, but certainly public notice. And then your finding statement will be based upon that environmental impact statement and a final conclusion. So this is just step one of somewhat of a lengthy process that we have ahead of us.
Steve, maybe be helpful to the board, so after all this is said and done, or Sandy, maybe you want to comment on this a little bit. Can you just let the board know what they will in fact have at the Altech Steel site?
So you will have, as Kevin has mentioned before, a shovel-ready document where you will have all the environmental impacts addressed and mitigated, knowing what the mitigation measures are. So you can go out and actively, aggressively market this property for a variety of businesses. This is a generic environmental impact statement that we're trying to address any potential end user that will be attendant into this park, into this property. And thereby we are teeing up the approvals for any prospective tenant to actually streamline their building permit process so they can turn around and expect to break ground in literally 3 to 4 months from having their facility designed. So it streamlines the process tremendously, cuts it in a third from a normal 2-year process to 4 months or so.
Sandy, anything you want to add?
And I would hope that we could work with the town to even shorten that up. It's really site plan. It's details of that. So I think the more constructive that discussion is with the town, and under Kevin's guidance, we are reaching out aggressively in a very positive way to partner with the town, share information. But this is truly at the end of this show already. It's very powerful in the marketplace when you can give a definitive shovel in the ground, and that's where we'll be heading. Short of infrastructure. We got some things on infrastructure to do, but when it comes to seeker and environmental and local approvals, they will be done.
And there are some other parallel tracks that Sandy and some of our other consultants are working on, power, water, sewer, rail, that are all kind of going along simultaneously in this, depending on the final project and what that particular tenant or owner may need on the site. There may be some additional work that has to happen, but, this is the name of the game. This is, what the state, Governor Hochul and ESD are pushing for, is to establish these shovel-ready sites around the state so that we, are really in the game when a large, industrial user comes to a site. This will all factor into the strategic plan that we're redoing. We're gonna be briefing the board on it in the coming month. That'll kind of help guide who and what we want to see happen in the site. This is more likely going to be a large scale, manufacturing site. I expect this to be, organized labor, jobs, or at very least prevailing wage, and, substantial investment, high numbers of jobs, high impact to the county's economy. Again, I know I sound like a broken record on this, but this is the single best industrial site we have in the county. So with that, any other questions for Steve or Tom and staff by the board? And if not, Mr. Chairman, I suggest you move the resolution.
Any questions? Okay, so.
How is it that we came to Mr. Johnson's firm to do this work?
We interviewed several area engineering firms, the usual suspects, so to speak. And our review committee recommended that McFarland Johnson be best suited to do this.
Thank you.
Okay, well, next up then, Tom, do we need to make a motion to approve the resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can we get a motion then to approve the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved.
Right.
Next, here on the agenda is public comments, open discussion. Anyone on the line? Okay, I don't think we need to get into executive session at all, so.
Mr. Chairman, there is one issue that I'd like to maybe discuss with the executive session. If everybody's pressed, I could just talk to you after the meeting, or the board would like to do it. But since we've got a group of the board members here, if nobody's really pressed for time,
What is the reason be, Kevin?
it'd be to discuss the appointee of a professional service organization.
Okay. So the reason for executive session under the open meetings law would be for the board to discuss the potential appointment or retention of a particular individual or corporation. So subject to the board agreeing to that, that would be the rationale for executive session.
As long as, that's
Yes, sir.
a valid reason, then, okay, then I make a motion. Can we make a motion anyways to go into executive session? Motion. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, you
Okay,
can
very
shut
good.
that down and
Yep, thank you.
make sure we shut down YouTube. Okay, the staff could leave. Tom, if you want to shut the action.
Oh, yeah.